He's Richard Justice, MLB Network and MLB.com. How are you, Richard?
I'm good, Rich. How are you doing
I'm
today?
doing fine. Before we get to what's going on in the trade deadline and the Honda Insider Report that Richard is kind enough to call in and create for us here today, how should I feel about Bud Selig's enshrinement? I'm conflicted, Richard, to be honest.
Well, I'm not conflicted. He's a close friend of mine, and I would say this: he led a transformation of the game. That the game he inherited in 1992 was a mess. I mean, everybody that had a team was trying to sell it. The owners and players had tried to kill the game the best they could. And what we've had out of his leadership, we're going to have 27 years of labor peace. No one thought that was possible. The revenue sharing has resulted in competitive balance since he took over. Every team's been to the postseason. He had a blue ribbon panel of guys like Paul Volcker, ex-chairman of the Fed, who told him when he got started, said, you got a big problem, sir. You only have about 5 teams that can win the World Series. That's not true anymore. And the technological advances, the interleague play, wild card, all that. Now, steroids are part of his legacy, and I think he understands that. He would tell you, I put a minor league testing program in immediately. We tried to collectively bargain steroid testing, and now today we have the best steroid testing program on the planet, praised by WADA, maybe the best in American industry. That would, I think, would be lay it out just about as fairly as I could.
Well, and in that, let's just spend a couple more minutes on it, Richard. 1994 is just difficult for me to get past. Now, I know you said he inherited a mess, and there's a bunch of teams that had owners that wanted to get out, but the man presided over the blowing off of a World Series. And
he did do that, and you're right. And the players went on strike on August 12th, I think it was, August 11th that year. And the reason they went on strike, let's just be fair, is they knew the owners were going to lock them out in spring training. What came of that was baseball had an economic system that hadn't changed since the days of Ebbett Steele. The reserve clause was gone. The players had a union. Everything had changed except the economic model hadn't changed. And I think he would say it was the most painful thing I've ever been through. He still thinks about it. What could I have done differently? But out of that came a new economic system that gave every team a chance to compete. Now, what he would say today is maybe we had to go through that pain to get to this point where attendance has, attendance, competitive balance, local TV and radio ratings, all the stuff you know about in terms of the renaissance of the game. Maybe we had to do that because no one was willing to confront the problems prior.
Well, and then one last one here. So to those who say he turned a blind eye to performance-enhancing drugs while he was there, or at least tried to fight it best as his ability, but still reap the benefits after a nuclear winter blowing off the World Series that the McGwire and Sosa era helped foster. How do you respond to something like that? Or how would he respond? How would he respond? Let's put it that way.
Right. The comeback began with Cal Ripken, and that's
true.
McGwire and Sosa were amazingly great for the game. A feel-good story. He got a call from a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter one time and said, I got to tell you, I don't know how you were supposed to know steroids were as influential as they were, because I was in the clubhouses every day, and I didn't know. And Rich, I'll tell you, speaking for myself, I was around the Oakland A's a lot, and that's probably the epicenter of steroids in baseball, and I didn't see it. I have said to players, I have said to different players, I feel so stupid. I didn't know it was going on. They said, well, look, they weren't doing those things out in the open. My only context for steroids, Rich, and I don't know about you, was Ben Johnson in the Olympics. That's what I knew. And I think we had this preconceived notion, weightlifting doesn't help you in baseball. It's worse. Lance Parrish had been one of the few guys lifted weights, punched fists, those guys. And so we were just, I'm speaking for myself. I was slow to figure out what was going on. And as soon as, and when Bud got a call in late 98 when a bottle of Andro was found in McGwire's locker. And what he did was he had a team of doctors do a study. What is steroids? What happens with steroids? And one of the letters he got from the doctor was, Commissioner, if you don't do something, you're going to have players die. And so it's on you to fix it. And in the 2002 labor agreement, basically, they said to the union, if you guys are going to strike over steroid testing, they tried to get it prior this sounds weird to say, but the economic problems of the game were so overwhelming. They were just trying to survive and never got it, never pushed hard enough for it, or never were willing to draw a line on it. In 2002, they just said, if you're going to strike over steroid testing, go right out that door, and they've increased it since then. And the most recent strengthening of it has come from players, and the players have pushed for it. 100-game punishment for a first offense, all of that. So both sides deserve some credit at the end to fixing the problem. Although when you have performance-enhancing substances in the sport, there's always going to be a cat and mouse game between a tester and a testee.
Mm-hmm. MLB Networks and MLB.com. Richard Justice here in the Honda Insider Report. Okay, why isn't Sonny Gray and Yu Darvish or Justin Verlander somewhere else right now? I certainly would have thought we would see them in a different spot mere hours before the trade deadline.
Yeah, we may. What we have is a dance going on with the Yankees, the Astros, the Cleveland Indians, and the Oakland A's and the Baltimore Orioles. The A's have Sonny Gray to trade. I don't know that the Rangers are going to trade Yu Darvish. They're going to. I should mention the Dodgers are definitely maybe the lead dance partner in that dance, and they're just going. This is a cat and mouse game. Who's going to trade? Is Cleveland willing to throw in this other guy? Billy Beane is playing it for all it's worth on Sonny Gray. Same thing with the Padres and their lefty reliever Brad Hand. Here's what I think, Rich. I don't think at the end of the day the Rangers are going to trade Yu Darvish. I think they look. If we can get to the postseason, we're going to have Hamels and Darvish and Cashner, who has pitched Andrew Cashner has pitched very well. We're going to have those guys lined up, and we've got a chance. And we have Adrian Beltre and guys like that. We're in a win now mode. We're not going to take a step back. I think in the same thing in Baltimore. I don't think they're going to trade Zach Britton. I could be wrong, but I don't think Peter Angelos is going to sign off on trading a guy like that means so much when you have him for another year. But I do think Sonny Gray is going to be traded, and I think the Padres are going to trade lefty reliever Brad Hand. And in 3 hours, the Padres, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Indians, and the Astros are all going to try to win this little race we got going.
Well, in terms of that race, Richard Justice here on the Rich Eisen Show, you walk around town here in Los Angeles, just going to get a cup of coffee across the thoroughfare from the AT&T studios here, Richard. I was asked no fewer than 3 times, how about those Dodgers? People here are nuts because it's all working. And yet, if they don't make a move in the next 3 hours, I think people are going to freak out for a team that's 43 games over 500. And part of the reason is it looks like if things stay the same, the Dodgers are going to go into yet another postseason where Kershaw is going to be starting constantly on short rest, it looks like. Don't you think they should try and fix something like that and go for it with one of these top-notch starters?
Yeah, and I would add to that the Dodgers would tell you this might be the best farm system they've ever had, certainly the best in recent memory. So ultimately, they can get whoever they want. They can overwhelm the Rangers and get Yu Darvish. But Andrew Friedman has always taken a long view. He would tell you that in the last 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, their rotation has been the best in baseball. But I agree, when you don't know what to expect of Clayton Kershaw. Rich Hill has had an injury history. Brandon McCarthy has had that. And Alex Wood has just not done it before. While it's the best in the regular season, you would like, I'm thinking of Justin Verlander, a guy that has a certain presence on the mound. Even you would, to me, I don't know how you feel about it, I would trade some performance just for the fact that he's Justin Verlander and he's been there and done that.
No question. And plus, you got yourself a right-handed power pitcher to go along with your left-handed stud. Right. That's game 1, 2, 6, and 7 maybe right there. And we're not even talking about Hill and Alex Wood, Richard.
Yeah. And the Houston Astros have a 20-year-old outfielder in Double-A named Kyle Tucker. He could get them anybody. And this is what these guys wrestle with. Andrew Friedman with the Dodgers, Jeff Luhnow with the Astros, you wrestle with how much is it worth to put our cards in the middle of the table? If you know you're going to the World Series, that moves. You do it in a heartbeat. Not winning the World Series, going to the World Series. You do it in a heartbeat. But it is something all these guys, especially the analytics-based guys, they try to constantly take a long view. But I will say this. When the Blue Jays were in Houston on the trade deadline day last year, they got 5 guys. None of them would turn your head. But there was an energy in the clubhouse for that move. Over on the other clubhouse, the Astros did nothing and you could feel it. It was palpable. Our front office doesn't believe in us. So there is beyond what you get that can be measured. There's what you get that can't be measured. And at this time of year when everybody's tired, everybody's starting to drag, that's important too.
Richard, really appreciate the knowledge. Love to have you back sooner rather than later.
Thank you. Anytime, Rich.
You got it. Thank you. That's Richard Justice.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on radio stations across the country and audience.
If you like that, please download our app. There's lots of fun things there other than just more of the videos you just saw. You can call us from the app. You can email us from the app. Just download it. Trust me, you'll enjoy it.